Hello everybody, this is Barry Johns, and today I'm going to walk you through how to balance your gimbal. The gimbal I'm using today is the Ronin-S. It has its little brother, little sister, however you want to look at it, and the Ronin-SC. And the difference between these two is this one handles more weight than the SC. So depending on your camera size and lens sizes, the total weight you're going to be using on the gimbal, let that drive your direction as far as which gimbal to purchase, whether it's from this company or any others out there. This is mainly about balancing and learning to get that down. A lot of videos out there, but I couldn't find any that really put it in what I'd call cornbread English. Let's keep it really simple. So what I've got here today is I've got a Canon EOS R. It currently has the EF to EOS R adapter, as well as a Canon Nifty 50. Now I chose this lens specifically because it's small. And so that'll give you an idea. It's easier to balance with a smaller lens, but I also have my Tamron 90mm macro lens that's quite heavy, all right? So I'm gonna be doing both those. So currently right now, everything is loose. It's almost like you just took it right out of the case. So let's talk about a couple of the locks on it. This one right here, okay? This one locks in the tripod plate, okay? The mounting plate. So this locks that, and it can't move back and forward. This one right here moves it left and right. So you get that centered, okay? This one right here moves this in and out. You come back over to this one right here, and it moves it up and down. So the first thing you want to do is put the camera, of course, mount the tripod plate to it. And there's a little button right here. See this little button right there? You got to push that in to allow it to go in. You actually load it from the front because you wouldn't have room in the back. Load it from the front, right? And then I tend to kind of lock it down a little bit right now because you can see it's tilting forward. So how do we fix that? Well, one of the first small adjustments we're going to make is we're going to move this back over this way. And see, that's already, so that gives me a kind of a starting point where I'll lock that down to where I can get balancing on it. So first thing I'm gonna do is go back and forth. I'm gonna adjust the tilt aspect of it, right? So I'm gonna loosen this. I'm tilting forward, which means the camera's gotta come backwards. Okay, you wanna get that to where that's just about right. And then that's locked in, okay? Now, it happens to look right now, if this were down here, you see what would happen. And plus note that the camera's rubbing right up against that. So you just keep moving this left and right, whichever way is needed to get the balance from this way. That was a really good demonstration, wasn't it? I'm gonna try to edit that out. All right, so that looks pretty good to me. So I'm now going to lock this one underneath, which is this one right here. Okay, next I've got to take it straight up. Now, if it's properly balanced, it will sit right there, no problem. So obviously I've got to bring this closer to balance this aspect ratio. A little bit too far. Now you notice it's starting to tilt a little bit left and right on me on some of the adjustments, which I'll have to adjust with the one in the back in a second. That's the first one I adjusted. See how I've got it like that, so I'm going to tighten that down. So now I want to make sure it stays. Now it's going down like that. So now we're going to adjust this one. I'm going to release that back. And I'm going to see if I've got to, see, I'll try to make it an extreme. So there I'm going all that way, right? So you want to keep just finding that balance, the right spot. This is a process of trial and error. You'll get it really quickly once you practice it enough. All right? So right now we've got this balance, this balance. I should be able to tilt that in any direction and it hold its place. All right? So that's how you balance a gimbal. Now, next thing I got to connect is the camera control cable, right? So there's a connector right here for that. And you do have to buy DJI's own cable because there's, to my knowledge, no third party, but say la vie. Now, it'll be interesting. I take note, I did this way for a reason because I wanted to see and show you guys if this camera's kicking my butt, if the cable made much of a difference. And so we're gonna need to check that out. So that's just the USB-C. All right, it doesn't appear that it did, but we'll find out in a second. Now this next part, okay, let's let that sit there. That looks good. All right, next thing I do is I pull out my phone. I'll record a screen app of a screen capture to show you what I'm going to be doing here. So first thing I'm going to do, I've got the Ronin app for this. And first thing you want to do is go into motor parameters. And here you want to do what's called auto tune. So what do we got to do first? Well, we got to turn the bad boy on. So let's push that button and turn it on. And then hit that auto tune and tell it to go ahead. And what it's doing is it's tweaking all of the motors, individual motors inside, till it finds the right settings, controls to be able to use the gimbal properly. And so as it goes through this process, it probably takes, I don't know, about 30 seconds. It seems to be fairly consistent with that. And then after that, we're gonna have to do our balance, tilt, and pan settings, okay? So now we've got that. We're gonna go back and go into balance test. Now, if you notice at the bottom of the screen, it says to tilt the gimbal forward 15 degrees while it's doing the test. This is important. This is really important. It also will show you as you're tilting your tilt degrees so you know you get it right. Now, a little thing I do is I'm leaning it forward right now. I'm finding that spot that's 15 and getting an idea of that. Then I'm hitting start. I put my hand underneath of it to make it easier for me to maintain that 15-degree measurement. Now, as you can see, the gimbal's now starting to move around on its own. It's making whatever fine adjustments. It's going to make sure if I did a good job of balancing it or not, because it'll tell me if I messed a certain part of it up. There's 3 things it looks for. I can mess one of them up and get the 2 right, and I only have to adjust that 1 back. So, as it so happens, I didn't balance it so well. I've got my tilt is excellent, my roll is excellent, but my pan is off a little bit. So I'm going to look here. I'm going to adjust this right here. See what I get from that. See what it's going to take to fix that. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to turn it off before I do that. Okay. There we go. It's starting to tilt on me that way a little bit. I think that looks like a good setting. Okay. Let's turn that bad boy back on. And I'm going to do that all over again. Balance test. Begin balance test. Get it to 15 degrees. And it's going to do that balance test. So here I am shooting a video teaching you how to do it right every time, and realize this is just a process. You know, it's something that has to go through. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But this part right here is really important. You got to make sure you got it balanced properly before you use it. And of course now you can't see this right now, but it gave me excellent results. And if you're asking about that, wow, hey Barry, that's a really cool phone case you have there. Well, actually it is. I happen to have another YouTube channel called That Redneck Willie's Jeep Show, and you can watch the videos from that at www.thatredneckwilliesjeepshow.com. Okay, my shameless plug is over. All right, so now we balance this one. This is all good to go. We're ready to go. I'm not doing a review of the unit. There's people that can do that better than me. I'm just basically giving you some insight on how to set it up. So let's do this again, but let's use a heavier lens, okay? So I'm gonna power the unit off. You're always gonna keep your hands around it just in case. It should still be that. I'm gonna untrack the control cable, loosen my slider here, push my little button there, and slide the camera on out so that you know that we're starting from scratch. I'm gonna release all these others and put them in different configurations, okay? So let's hop in and let's change lenses, okay? Here we have this is a great lens, by the way. If you haven't tried it before, if you're in need of that, well, there we go, got that in. Okay, now you see, obviously I'm dealing with a lot more length. Now, one of the things you've got to keep in mind here is if you're balancing your top heavy, you have to come back with the camera. So that may mean your tripod mounting plate, it may have to be adjusted to give you room to come back more before you hit this back part. So I'm going to take a second. I'm going to do that because, well, let me just show you real quick. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to have to adjust this. I already know it just from experience. So now I'm trying to come back. Hold on, remember how I said you got to find this spot right here first. Moving it left and right like that to get your balance. Now, if you notice, I'm still lilting forward, but I'm hitting this piece back here, which means this mounting plate needs to go that way. All right, so give me just a second, and I'm going to do that. All right, so now I've moved the mounting plate forward. give me more room to deal with, okay? So again, we're gonna put that on from here. We gotta push our little side button in over here to allow that to release. And then now before I get going forwards and backwards, this is when I've gotta just get this to get me in the general ballpark, because this is a lot more weight. Okay, so that's probably pretty good right there. Okay, so now I just keep coming back until it doesn't want to go forward anymore, which probably is a little bit too much. Okay, that looks good to me. So I'm now going to lock that down. So now I want to see whether it tilts back and forth. So it needs to, you can see how it's kind of tilting that way. So it needs to come this way, all right? So we're going to loosen this up, and now we're going to be able to slide this left and right. Now I'm just moving small little movements, and when you first get your gimbal, man, these things are going to be tough to move. They loosen up over time. Sometimes you feel like you're trying to move it maybe a 32nd of an inch, something silly like that, and you move it 1/2 inch. So you want to kind of understand that that's just some of the natural growing pains. All right, that looks pretty good to me. All right, we've got that. Now we need to be able to turn it up this way, right? Remember that? Now if I let go of this right now, it's just going to go boom, right straight down. So you don't want to do that. So you want to bring this back further. Just bring it back until you get the balance from there. Move that back that way a little bit, you know, until it feels, oops, see, I went too far. Remember what I was talking about? It just did it to me. Trying to move it just a little bit, and it went. Now it's going like that. That adjustment will be adjusted back here. So this looks pretty good as far as that is concerned. All right, now we want to adjust that. So now we're going to adjust this one right here, moving this in and out, okay? So we got that bad boy loose now. And here, this is going to be tweaking very small adjustments, because this particular locking part of it is very difficult sometimes. Okay. Well, it's not really difficult. It's just with longer lenses and heavier lenses, it can be a pain. So again, I should be able to tilt this anywhere and it stay. No, that looks fairly decent. Okay, what are we going to do now? We got to connect up the control cable. Now keep in mind when you're choosing lenses to use on your gimbal, if you're shooting a lot and you're going to be using this thing all day, you really want a light lens. A light small lens is best, just because the thing's going to kill your back over a period of time. And I have back problems, so that's not something I actually want to deal with very often. So I'm going to plug in the control cable there into the USB-C port of the Canon EOS R. That did not seem to impact it, so let's turn it on. Get that up. Let's open up our DJI app and let's go into our motor parameters. We're going to tell it to auto tune, and now it does its thing. A little shaky, shaky, wiggle, wiggle, you know what, popsicle, pickle, I don't know what I'm saying. But I've got to fill void while it's going through the process, so you can see it jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. All right, so we're about 75% right now. Again, you always want to start with this. Don't try to do your balance first. That's another thing I'd find. For some reason, I just didn't even think about it logically, and I would start the balance, and then I would get all these errors on balance. Well, that's because I didn't calibrate my motors first. So, all right, so it's done with that calibration. So what are we going to do next? We're going to do the balance test. We're going to watch this thing wiggle around and look at you. So begin that test. Oh, 15 degrees forward. I almost forgot, and I do this a lot. Okay. It's got me at 11 degrees right now, but there it's 15. Remember I told you I put my hand underneath of it. I know you can't see that, but I find out the right spacing, got my hand under a third part of the tripod, and that way I can actually pull back on it because my hand will stop the gimbal from going either way. And it tells me I have excellent tilt, excellent row, and excellent pan. So now you know how to balance your gimbal. So go out there and shoot some great footage. If you think it's really good, shoot me an email, send me a link to it. I want to watch it. So until next time, God bless.